Hello, this week we're going to be rigging an arm in a way that allows us to have the functionality of a bendy bone as well as an IK rig. First off, we're going to need a single bone, and under the viewport display we're going to turn on in front so that we can see our bone. The next step is to hop over into edit mode, and then we can make our bone the full length of the arm and rename it. I'm going to call mine b_arm.001. And then I'm going to subdivide this bone. We're going to set our subdivisions to 5 so that we have 6 bones. Because we've already named them, their names will be automatically updated for us. Now we're going to add one more bone for our hand. And then we can copy the bottom bone and turn snapping on. And we can move its head up so it intersects the third and fourth bone. We can then rename this bone to IK lower arm, making sure that it has no parents and that its deformation is set to false. Next, we can extrude a bone out from the lower arm. This will end where our arm meets our hand. We can call this IK_upper arm. Make sure that, like the last one, deformation is set to false. Now, just like when you're making an IK rig, we're going to need 2 more bones coming out from the side. These bones will need no parent and the deformation will be set to false. This will be our controller and our pole target. The pole target will need to be slightly away from the other bones, like so. Now let's quickly rename these bones before we move on. We're now going to add a curve. We're going to use this to fake the bendy bone effect. Let's make this curve go from the bottom of the arm to the top in a straight line. We're going to need to add a subdivision and snap the new point to the middle of the arm bones. Now we have to look at this curve from all angles to make sure that it's in the center of our bones. Next is adding constraints. So in pose mode, select the first bone in the B arm chain and add a copy transformation. Set the target to armature and the bone will be our IK lower arm. Then we can set the target and owner to pose space. We're also going to add a copy transformation to the fourth bone in the B arm chain. This time, the bone to copy will be our IK upper arm, and our target and owners will also be set to pose space. Now, to add the IK controller, we're going to need to hop over into edit mode. We're going to need to move the point where the IK bones meet ever so slightly towards the pole. If we don't do this, the IK constraint will not allow our bones to bend properly. After that, in pose mode, we can add the inverse kinematic constraint to our IK upper arm, set the target to our armature, and the bone will be our IK controller. And then the pole target will be set to our armature as well. Then the bone will be our IK pole. The chain length should be set to 2 for this. Next is setting up the bendy bone part. Start off by adding an IK spline to the last bone in the B arm chain. The target will be the curve from earlier. The chain length will be set to 6, 1 for each B arm bone. Now you can see that the bones follow the curve, but we want the curve to be controlled by the IK bones. To do that, we're going to need to add a modifier called hook. The object will be set to armature, and the bone will be set to our IK controller. We'll need to select the first point in the curve and assign it to this hook. Now we're going to need one for the second point as well. So make another hook and set the object to armature, and the bone for this one will be the IK pole, and assign this to the second point. For the last one, we're going to need to add another bone to act as our shoulder. So copy the first bone in the B arm chain and snap it into place. Make sure the B arm and the IK lower arm are parented to this bone, and rename it. We're also going to need to clear the constraint off this bone in its pose mode. Now back to the curve. Add a third hook modifier and assign its object to be the armature. The bone should be the shoulder, and then we can assign the last point of this curve to it. Now we can see this moving around the way we want it to, but let's make it so we can turn the bendy effect on and off when needed. To do that, select the last bone in the B arm chain, and under the bone tab, we can add a custom property. Then click this little gear here, and we're going to rename this property. I'm going to just call it Enable Curve. Next, we're going to need to copy the data path. And in the constraints, we can right click on the influence and add a new driver. We need to set this driver to a single property and then set it to our armature and then we can just paste the data path in with Control V. The expression should just be set to var. There is no need for the +1. Now we can just parent this rig to our arm and we can call that done. So thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the new year.